All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And I saw somebody say they had to step away. That's fine. It will be recorded. So this will be posted to the site for anybody that couldn't make it, or I understand it's the end of the day and things are happening. So this is
No, I don't do it.
So this is just going to be me giving a few facts, going over some things about the ARP Homeless I funds that are becoming available to you all. And then there'll be a time for you all to ask questions. So the commissioner's memo has been released that details everything you need to know about these funds. And the link for the addendum is located in the commissioner's memo. I've also put it in this slide, which I'll share with everybody when we're done today. And the addendum is due by October the 6th. The addendum is to be uploaded into Industar, into the folder. There's a specific folder that's titled ARP Homeless I. If you haven't been in there and haven't seen it, you go into uploading a document like you normally would, and new folders have to be chosen from that drop down menu. It won't pop up on your main Industar screen until you upload something in there for the first time. If you are trying to upload and you have a problem with that, you can give me a call and I will help you get it in there. You will receive an acceptance letter from this office. It'll be posted in your Industar in that folder saying that your addendum to your application has been accepted and that you can go ahead and begin to obligate those funds. Like I said, you have to fill out the addendum in order to get the funds. It's an addendum to your original grant application that you did 2.5 years or so ago. And once you filled that out and gotten the letter, you can go ahead and start obligating those funds. That right there, that link will take you to the addendum. When you get to that link, be sure that you save a copy of it for yourself because it's a shared document. And I've seen some people typing in it. And so when you leave, somebody else may have come back and start typing their information. So it's best to just save it as your own. And then when you upload it, it'll still be there. Let's see. It does ask on there for your eligible amount. That amount is located in the commissioner's memo, which there's a link to that later on in this slideshow. But your exact amount needs to be typed in there, and that is located on that commissioner's memo. So with the ARP money, the same 16 allowable activities apply. These are just some examples, but they're not limited to the things that ARP, Homeless, and McKinney-Vento funds are allowed to be spent on. If you have something that is questionable, please ask first. And I have a document in here that I'm going to show you in a little bit for that. If you feel like something falls under the emergency category, which is the 16th allowable activities, if there's time, ask me. If not, just, the next day, give me a call or shoot me an email saying this happened and, we had to do this if it's something that you're not sure about. Again, these are just some examples that are covered under the regular McKinney-Vento law. Now, this next slide is a list of supplemental activities that are a little more specific to responding to the COVID-19 situation. In the ARP homeless document, it states that it's for any expense that's reasonable and necessary to facilitate the identification, enrollment, retention, and educational success of homeless children and youth. And then it gives some examples. So with like the wraparound services for academic supports, I have heard a lot about different online tutoring options because I know some of you are still battling high numbers of COVID, and then trying to get, find the staff in person to stay and after school and transportation. There are online tutoring options for students to uh, connect with that are located or based in Arkansas, even along with some of the more national ones. You could check into contracting out to those type of companies for targeted assistance. Um, Trauma informed care. It mentions trauma informed care and social emotional support. I'm working to create a list of mental health workers in Arkansas that are willing to contract out to schools for telehealth, mental, and social emotional options. If you know somebody in your area that would like to do that for students that are experiencing homelessness, that would be great. I know some schools offer um, school-based mental health services. If you can work with them for, maybe more targeted assistance for those specific students, or if you feel like that, they don't have the time because that's a service that your school is already offering, it would be considered equitable for you to do what you need to do to extend those services to students experiencing homelessness. Especially with such a rise and with COVID, mental health is really affecting our students. And I think that's a big one to focus on. Needed supplies. It talks about needed supplies beyond just regular PPE. I know some schools are working to create hygiene packets for students that they're giving them on a regular basis. Um, let's be careful that we don't purchase, 300 sticks of deodorant at a time, more reasonable amounts, and, replace it as necessary. And then those last few where it talks about cell phones, housing, and prepaid cards. If you plan to do something like this, please talk it through with me first. Let's make sure that it's reasonable because those can um, those can be kind of tricky when it comes to trying to explain why you bought a prepaid debit card for students experiencing homelessness and how you track how they're spending that money and how you're keeping up with all of that. So um, those last three, the cell phones, the short-term housing, like paying for a few days in a hotel, um, it specifically says if this is the only reasonable option for COVID safe temporary housing. So it's very specific on these, and I'm going to show you there's a justification form on the next slide that we're going to talk about. One thing to consider, I was talking to people from the NCHE this morning, is to consider increasing training for all of your staff, using some of these funds to increase training for identification. As a state, we all know that we're already under identified. So this would be a good time to maybe loop in not just your regular counselors and your social workers, but making sure that your teachers have full inclusive training, taking some time to use this money to pay them for that. Um, bring in your bus drivers, your secretaries, the people that see these students every day. They'll notice the little changes in them, and they might even have, closer connections with some of the people in the community that have inside information on these students and how they're living in their housing situations. So on this next slide, you've got your source of funds code and your revenue code. It was in the commissioner's memo. And like I said, I'm going to send this slide out. If you have any big ticket purchases or something that you're not quite sure of, it might not fit exactly under one of those 16 allowable activities or some of the listed supplemental things, I've created a justification form. And all that is so that you can write out exactly what you want to do with it. And we have a paper trail saying that this is what you want to use the money for. We've seen it. We know, we approved it and said that we think that, that falls under whichever code or however, and that you've got something saying that you didn't just go out and spend the money willy-nilly. So if you'll just, when you need to do something, complete that and just email it to me. Again, it's a shared form, so save it and then, create your own copy and just send it to me. It's not anything fancy. It's just 1 page long. You don't have to write a dissertation. I just need to know, what you want to do with it. If you'd like to call me and we can walk through it together, that's fine too. While we're on this slide, I just want to give a reminder. Hold on, let me see the chat. Okay, so Lindsay said, what's considered a large purchase? I know, like, I talked to a school district that wants to do a washer and dryer for their students experiencing homelessness. They're going to put it in their hygiene closet. That's something that you would, want to ask about before you just went out and buy it. If you're buying masks or if you're doing tutoring services, something that's already specifically listed, I wouldn't consider that something that you need justification for. But if you're not sure if it's allowable, or if you're not sure if you can tie it into, be COVID related, or if it's questionable in any kind of way, even if you call first and ask, do you think I should do a justification form on this? Is this something that's going to be okay? Just let me know. If you have any question about it, just ask. Just a reminder while we're on this, your monthly budget is due this week for your regular McKinney-Vento grant. And when we do get these funds out, your ARP money will work the same way. You'll do the budget worksheet and you'll do your receipts and upload your receipts, and they'll go into the ARP Homeless I folder, just like you put your regular McKinney-Vento stuff in the 21-22 uploads folder. Just a little bit of housekeeping while we're on that. Make sure that when you upload those documents, and I know I didn't say this in the financial training, but this will really help me out. If you put your district name and your month and the month it is in the header of that document, because once I start, opening up all those documents, I have to go back and re-download. If I have more than one open at a time, I don't know whose is what when none of them have anything on them. So if you can try to make it a practice to put your district name and the month at the header, and when you start doing ARP, if you could also put district name, month, and just put ARP1 in the header. I would really, really appreciate that. Also, make sure that when you turn in the budget worksheet that you leave it in the Excel format so that it's easy for us to work with. And we cannot approve your reimbursements without receipts. So if it's not salary, I have to have receipts for your regular McKinney-Vento and for this. And again, those can just be scanned and uploaded into the appropriate folders. So I'm going to send this out when we get done. The link to the commissioner's memo is right there. The link to the addendum is right there. And if you want some fun reading in your downtime that I know all of you have, the link to the ARP final requirements for this money is in there as well. I know that a lot of you are about to receive more money than you've probably ever had to enhance the education of your students who are experiencing homelessness. So my plan is to do what I'm going to call a dream workshop on October 22nd. And what I'm going to do is get together some ideas that will help you spend some of this money in the most efficient ways that could really help your students. And they're just ideas. They're not anything that you have to do, but they're going to come to you already justified and vetted and ready to go. And all you got to do is say, yes, I want to do that. I'm going to run them by our people here and the people at NCHE so that all you have to do is choose to do it or not. If it helps your students experiencing homelessness, your population specifically. So I'm going to send the invitation with the Zoom link out to that someday this week. If you're interested in joining, it's not necessary. It's not, you know, required. I mean, it's not, it is necessary if it's something you need, but it's not required. If you are not already on my monthly newsletter, that's just a QR code. Or if somebody in your building would also like to be on there, that'll be in the slideshow when you get it. Anybody that wants to be added can just go in and fill that out, and I will add them. And then I've always got those links at the end. And now is the time for questions. So I'm going to switch this to stop share. So what questions do we have?
Can you repeat the part about the district name and month in the header?
Yes, ma'am.
What document are you talking about?
When you upload the budget worksheet and the scanned receipts into InduStar, just when you name the document, can you name it with the school district name and then the month that is? For both regular McKinney-Vento and ARP. Do we have any more questions?
I have a question about increased training for identification.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying to pay the trainer, or are you saying pay the people to attend the training?
If you do it during school hours, you can't pay the teachers.
Correct.
If you're going to do something, if you're going to hold something outside of school hours, Miss Annette, that would be allowable, wouldn't it, to pay the teachers and the trainer? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Just took a swallow of my water and I didn't. Yes.
You also mentioned mental health providers.
Mm-hmm.
And my department works with the mental health providers through our district.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you saying that we can pay them to provide a service to our students
That are experiencing homelessness? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you know, that's a separate contract.
Miss Annette.
Okay.
So it's a different contract, a teacher's contract. So you're going to have to write it up and as a stipend, maybe. We'll have to look into that one, Miss John, just to make sure on how that should be.
You know, the mental health providers are not teachers.
Right.
Right, but it's above in their contract that they've already signed with you stating they're going to do X, Y, Z. And this is a totally different grouping of kids and people. So it would probably have to be an addendum to those number of kids that they're going to review or work with.
Okay. It's just a thought. If I decide to do that, I'll get with you guys.
Yes, ma'am. What other questions?
So, Ms. Hickman, this is Lisa Huey from Fayetteville.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have a question. I sat in on a few webinars over the summer with Schoolhouse Connection, and they were talking about these funds, and they mentioned the possibility of utilizing these funds to purchase a district vehicle for transportation for School of Origin for the homeless students. And I think everyone would agree that transportation is a struggle with bus short on bus drivers and just getting kids bused to the School of Origin. Is that something that we could possibly look at as far as the purchase of either a van or some kind of district vehicle to provide transportation?
I'm actually, I had a district ask this morning and I'm waiting to hear back from NCHE. They're checking in on it, but Miss Annette's shaking her head no.
You know, you don't want to risk putting those kids in a vehicle and not in a school bus. Okay, there's that transportation status there at the district and you're transporting those kids. So that just scares me when you put a kid in a vehicle and not in a school bus and
But what if
transport him.
I have that question also. This is John McCraney again,
Mhm.
full of questions today. About a bus. Could we use this money to purchase a bus where our bus drivers who's already contracted through the district would drive the bus? I don't know if you know much about Pulaski County, but we actually have 4 feeders that we feed into the Mills feeder pattern, the Seven Hills feeder, the Marmel feeder, and the Robinson feeder. So we covers Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Pulaski County in regards of mileage. So that was a question that was brought to my attention is could I use this money in regards to purchasing a bus it would be for the district, but it would really make transportation easier. So we wouldn't want to purchase a van or anything like that. We would like to purchase a bus.
I will have to find out. That's one of those that we'll have to ask about.
Yes.
And it's also all about how it's written, how the justification is written. Ms. Green, you got something to say on that? Okay.
Yes, I'm going to have to agree with Annette. You've got to be very cautious about, remember, you're only supposed to transport kids for school purposes on a bus. So you need to be careful about that purchasing or even looking at purchasing of a van. And we all know that transportation and purchasing additional buses is an eligible expense from ESSER funds as well, especially because remember, you can use those funds like you do any of the other ESSA funds, which would include McKinney-Vento. So, if you are in need and several districts have requested purchases of additional transportation, that you might look at your ESSER funds as well as buying that additional bus if you didn't get enough of these funds.
I just saw in the chat that Lindsay asked if they could find a bus driver that they be able to pay their wage to drive specifically McKinney-Vento, and that's yes. Yeah, you can pay salary, and transportation salary is part of that. Any more questions? Okay. If you all don't have any more questions, oh, here we go. Who's to purchase laptops for use by a homeless tutor? So the laptop would be for the tutor?
The laptop would be for the tutor to use to maintain records such as their timesheets, their time with the children. I ask my tutors to keep up with records of who they see and when they see them and what they do with them. That's what the laptop would be used for. Would that be an allowable purchase?
Are those tutors specifically for the students experiencing homelessness, or are they like school-wide tutors?
These are tutors that are serving our homeless students.
I will ask questions, but I don't see why not.
Okay.
But I'll ask about that. Yeah, let me write that one down.
Thank
Is
you.
there an amount that districts can set aside for administrative costs on their McKinney-Vento?
I don't know. I will
That's
find that.
fine.
I haven't come across anything that says that. But it does say any necessary like fees or salaries or services. It doesn't have like a set aside amount.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if they can use those funds for administrative services or administrative purposes, that would be what that laptop would be considered for administration of the program, I would think. And that, you see it any different?
Yeah, that is what I was thinking. I'm trying to.
If it's just for that McKinney-Vento tutor, then I wouldn't see a problem with it because then it's going everywhere and it's being used for that one purpose.
And then it can be passed on to the next tutor.
Yes.
I was trying to get my guidelines pulled up so I could tell you which exact activity fund that is. Yeah, number 9 says the payment of fees and other costs associated with tracking, obtaining, transferring records necessary for them. And then there's another one, but yeah, I think it would be allowable. Are there any other questions? Okay, if we don't have anything else, thank you, everybody that's on here. And like I said, it'll be posted to the CARES website page soon. So, and if you come across any other questions, just let me know, send me an email or give me a phone call. Thank you, guys.